The envelope trembled in her hands. Elena Morrison stared at the DNA test results, the words blurring through her tears. 99.7% match. But it was the second page that made her blood run cold, the one she wasn't supposed to see. The one comparing Lucas to Marco Vincenti. The door to the penthouse slammed open. Dante Russo stood in the doorway, his tailored suit perfect despite the late hour, his dark eyes fixed on the papers in her shaking hands. "You have exactly 10 seconds to explain," his voice cut through the silence like a blade, "why my 3-year-old son has my enemy's eyes. This is a story about betrayal, secrets, and a love that shouldn't exist. If you want to know how a simple surrogacy arrangement became a deadly conspiracy, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view matters, and this story will keep you on the edge of your seat until the very last word." 3 years earlier, Elena had stood in this same penthouse, but everything had been different. She'd worn her only professional dress, the black one with a small tear in the hem she'd carefully hidden with safety pins. Her student loan statements sat heavy in her purse, next to her mother's final hospital bills. $73,000 in debt. The number haunted her dreams. "Miss Morrison." The lawyer's voice was clinical, detached. "Mr. Russo's offer is straightforward. You'll carry his child through IVF. 9 months of pregnancy, all medical expenses covered, plus $200,000 upon successful delivery." Elena's hands twisted in her lap. 200,000. Enough to bury her past and start over. Enough to finally breathe. "Why me?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Russo requires discretion. You have no family, no social media presence, no connections to his world. You're perfect precisely because you're invisible." The words stung, but they were true. After her mother's death 6 months ago, Elena had become a ghost moving through New York's crowded streets. 2 nursing jobs kept her busy enough that loneliness couldn't catch up. "You'll never see Mr. Russo," the lawyer continued. "All communication goes through me. The child will be raised in his household. You'll sign away all parental rights. This is a business transaction, nothing more." Elena closed her eyes. A business transaction. She could do business. "Where do I sign?" The procedure happened in a private clinic in Manhattan. Sterile white walls, doctors who never made eye contact, and a check that cleared the next day. Elena walked out different than she'd walked in, lighter financially, heavier in ways she couldn't name. For 9 months, she was a well-paid prisoner in a safe house in Queens. Nurses checked on her daily. Groceries appeared like magic. She read books and watched the city through bulletproof windows, her hand on her growing belly, whispering promises she knew she couldn't keep. "I'm sorry," she told the baby in the quiet moments. "I'm so sorry." Lucas Russo came into the world on a Tuesday morning in March. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. Elena held him for exactly 5 minutes before the lawyer's team took him away. She signed the papers with shaking hands, accepted her final payment, and walked out of the hospital alone. The plan was simple. Take her money, move to Boston, start over. Forget. But 3 weeks later, the nightmares started. In her dreams, Lucas cried, and she couldn't reach him. She'd wake up with her arms empty, milk leaking through her shirt, her body remembering what her mind tried to forget. She lasted 2 months in Boston before she came back to New York. Just to see him once, she told herself. Just to know he was okay. The Russo mansion sat in the most exclusive part of Manhattan, surrounded by iron gates and men in black suits. Elena watched from across the street, hidden behind a coffee shop window, as a nanny pushed a stroller through the garden. Just a glimpse of dark hair, a tiny fist reaching toward the sky. He was alive. He was cared for. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Elena found herself there every Tuesday, her day off, watching from a distance. She saw the nanny change over the months, saw Lucas grow from infant to toddler. She never got close. She never broke the rules. Until the day Marco Vincenti's black SUV pulled up to the mansion. Elena had researched Dante Russo obsessively after signing the contract, a way to understand the world her biological son would grow up in. She knew about the Russo family's empire, their legitimate businesses hiding darker operations. She knew about Dante's reputation, ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. And she knew about Marco Vincenti, his enemy, the rival who'd been trying to take over Russo territory for a decade, the man whose family had killed Dante's father. So when Vincenti stepped out of that SUV with half a dozen armed men, every instinct in Elena's body screamed danger. She was already dialing 911 when the shooting started. The world exploded into chaos. Gunfire shattered the afternoon quiet. The nanny screamed, diving behind a fountain with Lucas clutched to her chest. Men in suits poured from the mansion, returning fire. Vincenti's team retreated to their vehicles. And Elena ran. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She just ran across the street, through the opening gates, past the bodyguards too focused on the threat to notice one desperate woman. She reached the nanny behind the fountain. Lucas was screaming, his tiny face red with terror. The nanny's arm was bleeding, her eyes wide with shock. "Give him to me." Elena didn't recognize her own voice. "I'm a nurse. Go inside, get help." The nanny hesitated for only a second before thrusting Lucas into Elena's arms and stumbling toward the mansion. Elena curled around the baby, her son, and ran for the service entrance. Bullets ricocheted off stone. Someone shouted orders in Italian. Her nursing training kicked in, keeping her low, keeping him protected, moving toward safety. She made it inside just as a hand grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. Dante Russo stood there, a gun in one hand, fury in his eyes. For 3 seconds they stared at each other, the father who'd never held his son, and the mother who'd never stopped thinking about him. Then Dante looked down at the crying child in her arms, and something in his expression cracked. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. Lucas chose that moment to grab Elena's finger, his cries quieting. His tiny green eyes. Wait. Green eyes. Elena's world tilted. She looked at Lucas, really looked, for the first time up close. Those weren't Dante's eyes. Dante's eyes were dark, almost black, intense as midnight. These eyes were bright green, distinctive, familiar from every photo she'd seen of Marco Vincenti. "Oh, you." Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. Elena's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Because she suddenly understood. This wasn't just a surrogacy gone right. This was a conspiracy gone very, very wrong. The safe room in the basement of the Russo mansion was designed to withstand a siege. Reinforced steel walls, independent power supply, enough provisions for 2 weeks. You broke into my home during an active firefight." Dante's voice was ice. "I saved your son. My son." The words came out sharp. Dante moved closer, his shadow falling over them both. "Look at his eyes and say that again." Elena met his gaze. "The clinic." Something went wrong at the clinic. Nothing went wrong. Dante pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "I paid for the best doctors, the most secure facility. Every step was documented, verified." He stopped. His face went pale. "No." "What?" "The lab technician." Dante's voice was barely audible. "Dr. Sarah Chen. She disappeared 2 weeks after the procedure. I thought she relocated for personal reasons. I paid her severance myself." Elena's blood went cold. "Vincenti got to her." "Vincenti got to her," Dante confirmed, "and he made sure his genetic material was used instead of mine. For 3 years, I've been raising my enemy's son. For 3 years, he's been waiting for the perfect moment to reveal this and destroy everything I've built." Lucas stirred in Elena's arms, his small hand gripping her shirt. She held him tighter, her mind racing. "But I carried him. I gave birth to him. Genetically, he's half mine and half Marco Vincenti's." Dante's laugh was bitter. "This is brilliant. Viciously, perfectly brilliant. My legitimate heir, the child I announce to every family in the organization, is carrying the blood of my greatest enemy. Do you understand what this means?" Elena did. She'd learned enough about mafia politics to know. Your rivals will question your judgment. Your allies will wonder if you knew. Your position is over. Dante sank into the chair across from her, his head in his hands. For the first time, he looked human. Vulnerable. 10 years building my father's empire. 10 years earning respect, consolidating power. And with one DNA test, Vincenti can destroy it all. Silence filled the room, broken only by Lucas's soft breathing. "What will you do?" Elena whispered. Dante looked up, his eyes finding hers. "What would you do? If someone had stolen 3 years of your life? Made you love a child that was designed to ruin you?" "He's 3 years old." Elena's voice hardened. "He didn't design anything. He's innocent." "In my world, Miss Morrison, there's no such thing as innocent. There are only assets and liabilities." Dante stood, moving toward the door. "I'll have someone escort you out. The money you were paid should buy your silence. If it doesn't, I'm not leaving him." The words surprised them both. Dante turned slowly. "Excuse me." Elena stood, adjusting Lucas in her arms. The fear was still there, electric under her skin, but something stronger had taken root. "I'm his biological mother. I carried him, I gave birth to him, and for 3 years I've watched from across the street outstretched." Elena took him, pulling him close, and felt Dante's hand still on her shoulder, a touch that was part warning, part promise, part something else entirely. Outside the safe room, Vincenti's men were probably long gone. The mansion would be secured, damage assessed, new protocols implemented. But in this moment, in this underground sanctuary, 3 people formed a fragile new alliance. And somewhere in the shadows of New York, Marco Vincenti waited for his plan to unfold, completely unaware that he'd just given Dante Russo the one thing that could never be bought or forced. A real family. Even if none of them knew it yet. 6 weeks. That's how long Elena had been living in the Russo mansion, playing the most dangerous role of her life. The cover story was simple. She was Lucas's biological mother, recently back in his life, now living in the house to co-parent. The truth beneath it was far more complicated. Every morning, Elena woke in a bedroom 3 times the size of her old apartment. Silk sheets, a view of Central Park, a bathroom with heated floors. Every morning, she reminded herself this wasn't real, that she was here for Lucas, not the luxury. But God, the luxury made it harder to remember. "You're doing it wrong." Dante's voice cut through her thoughts. Elena looked up from where she was helping Lucas with his breakfast. "Excuse me." Dante moved into the kitchen, impossibly elegant in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. He took the spoon from her hand, demonstrating the proper way to cut Lucas's oatmeal into small bites. His fingers brushed hers, and that same electric shock ran up her arm. It happened every time he touched her. Every accidental brush, every moment he stood too close, every time his hand settled on her lower back to guide her through the mansion. Elena told herself it was just nerves. Just fear wrapped in adrenaline. She was lying to herself, and they both knew it. "I've been feeding children for years," Elena said, taking the spoon back. "I'm a nurse, remember? And I've been raising him for 3 years. Trust me, if you don't cut it smaller, he'll. Lucas promptly spit out his oatmeal. Dante's expression would have been funny if Elena wasn't trying so hard not to laugh. He grabbed a napkin, wiping Lucas's face with practiced ease. "See. I see you're very confident for someone currently covered in oatmeal." Something dangerous flashed in Dante's eyes, something that wasn't anger. "Careful, Elena. You're forgetting who you're talking to." "Am I?" The words came out before she could stop them. "Because right now, you look less like a terrifying mafia boss and more like a dad who needs to change his tie." Dante looked down at the oatmeal splatter on his silk tie. For a moment, Elena thought she'd gone too far. Then he did something she'd never seen before. He smiled. Not the cold, calculated expression he wore for his men. Not the carefully controlled mask he showed the world. A real smile, slightly crooked, genuinely amused. "You have no sense of self-preservation," he said. "I ran into a gunfight to save your son. We established that 6 weeks ago." "Our son." The correction was automatic, and they both froze. Lucas, oblivious to the tension, grabbed Dante's hand. "Papa, can Elena come to the park?" "The park isn't safe right now, Piccolo." "But you promised." Dante's jaw tightened. "Since the attack, cover every angle with my men dressed as joggers and parents. Make him think he's having a normal afternoon while actually being in the most secure location in Manhattan." It was excessive. It was paranoid. It was exactly what Lucas needed. "When?" Elena asked. "Saturday. 3 days. That gives me time to plan." Dante's hand dropped from her face, but his eyes never left hers. "On one condition." "What?" "You stay by his side every second. You don't let him out of your sight. And if anything, feels wrong, you get him to the car." "Can you do that?" Elena nodded. "I can do that." "Good." Dante stepped back, and the moment shattered. He was the boss again, all business and cold calculation. "I have meetings. Keep him inside today. No balconies, no windows." He was halfway to the door when Lucas called out, "Papa." Dante turned. "Love you." The words were automatic, something Lucas said every morning. But today, with Elena watching, with the weight of their conversation still hanging in the air, they hit different. Dante crossed back to Lucas, crouching down to his level. He kissed the little boy's forehead, murmured something in Italian, then left without looking at Elena. But she'd seen his face. Seen the raw emotion he'd tried to hide. Dante Russo loved his son. Fiercely, completely, desperately. And Elena was starting to realize she was falling in love with both of them. Saturday came wrapped in perfect spring weather. Elena dressed Lucas in jeans and a t-shirt, normal clothes for a normal afternoon. She ignored the bulletproof vest Dante insisted the boy wear underneath. The park was exactly as promised, emptied of real civilians, filled with Dante's people playing their roles. A couple throwing a frisbee were both ex-military. The mom pushing a stroller had a gun strapped to her ankle. The hot dog vendor was one of Dante's most trusted lieutenants. Lucas didn't notice. He saw swings and slides and finally, open sky. "Can I, Mama?" The word stopped Elena's heart. "Mama." He'd started calling her that last week, tentatively at first, then with more confidence. Each time felt like a gift she didn't deserve. "Go ahead, baby. I'm right here." Lucas ran for the swings, his laughter echoing across the too-quiet park. Dante appeared at Elena's side, so close their arms touched. 12 men on the perimeter," he said quietly. 8 snipers on rooftops. 3 drones overhead with thermal imaging. If a squirrel moves wrong, we'll know about it." "Romantic," Elena said. He looked at her sharply. "What?" Nothing. Just thank you for doing this. It means everything to him. I'm not doing it for gratitude. I know. You're doing it because you love him. Dante's jaw tightened. I told you. I don't love. And I told you. You're lying. They watched Lucas swing higher, his delighted squeals carrying on the breeze. One of the actors, a woman in yoga pants, pushed him gently, playing her role perfectly. Higher, Lucas demanded. If I could give him the world, Dante said suddenly, I would. Every good thing. Every safe thing. I'd build him a kingdom where nothing could hurt him. You can't protect him from everything. I can try. Elena turned to face him. What happens when he's old enough to know the truth? About what you do. About where he comes from. About Marco Vincenti. Dante's voice went cold. The man whose blood he shares. The man who orchestrated his entire existence as a weapon. He doesn't have to know. Not yet. Maybe not ever. In my world, secrets always come out. Usually when they can cause maximum damage. Dante finally looked, and Elena realized with startling clarity that she'd do anything to protect this fragile, impossible family they were building in the shadow of danger. Even if it meant facing down the monster who'd orchestrated Lucas's existence. Even if it meant falling in love with a man who claimed he couldn't love back. Even if it meant risking everything she had to protect everything she'd gained. As they walked toward the ice cream vendor, surrounded by armed guards playing civilian, walking through an illusion of safety, Elena's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. But something made her check. The message had no words. Just a photo. Of her and Lucas. At this park. Today. Taken from an angle no guard was covering. Elena's blood went cold. She looked up, scanning the rooftops, the trees, the shadows. But whoever had taken the photo was already gone. And the message was clear. They were being watched. They were vulnerable. And Marco Vincenti was about to make his move. The photo sat on Dante's desk like a loaded gun. Elena stood beside him in his office, arms wrapped around herself, while Dante's security team reported their failure. Thermal imaging caught nothing. Drone surveillance was clean. Whoever took this was a professional. Tony Moretti, Dante's head of security, looked like he wanted to shoot someone. They had to be there before we arrived. Hidden in position for hours. Or they had inside information, Dante said quietly. The room went silent. Accusing someone in the organization of betrayal was as good as signing their death warrant. But Dante's eyes were cold, calculating. Run background checks again. Everyone who knew about today. I don't care if they've been with me for 20 years. Someone talked, or someone's been compromised. Boss, that's half the organization. Then check half the organization. Dante's fist slammed onto the desk. My son was exposed. His mother was threatened. I want to know who, how, and why, and I want to know yesterday. Capice? The men scattered. Only Tony remained, hesitating at the door. What? Dante's voice was sharp. There's something else. A message came through one of our drop points. From Vincenti. Elena's stomach dropped. Show me. Tony handed over a sealed envelope. Dante opened it with his knife, reading the contents with an expression that grew darker with each word. What does it say? Elena asked when she couldn't stand the silence anymore. Dante handed her the letter. The handwriting was elegant, mocking. Dear Dante, I see you found my gift. Beautiful boy, isn't he? Has your smile, your mother's nose. Such a shame about the eyes. 3 years you've raised him as your heir. 3 years you've introduced him to the families, built your succession around him. I wonder what they'll think when they learn the truth? I'm feeling generous, so I'll give you a choice. Acknowledge him publicly as Vincenti blood and step down from leadership, or I release the DNA proof and destroy your legitimacy. Either way, I win. You have 1 week. Oh, and Dante? Tell Elena I said hello. She was so much more cooperative than she remembers. Regards, MV. The last line made Elena's blood run cold. What does he mean, more cooperative? Dante's eyes met hers, and she saw the question there. The doubt. I never met him, Elena said urgently. I swear. The clinic handled everything. I never saw anyone except Dr. Chen and her nurses. Dr. Chen who disappeared. Dr. Chen who was on Vincenti's payroll. Dante stood, pacing like a caged animal. He's trying to drive a wedge between us. Make me doubt you. Is it working? Dante stopped, looked at her. Really looked at her. No, he said finally. If you were working with him, you wouldn't have come back. You wouldn't have put yourself in danger. You wouldn't, he moved closer. You wouldn't look at me the way you do. How do I look at you? Like I'm worth saving. Like I'm more than what I do. Like, his hand cupped her face. Like maybe I could be someone different. Someone better. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. You are someone different with Lucas. I've seen it. Lucas. Dante's jaw tightened. If this gets out, this is crazy. This is survival. What if people think it's suspicious? Sudden. Let them think. In my world, whirlwind marriages happen. Love at first sight, passion, impulsiveness. They'll believe it because they want to believe it. Everyone loves a good romance. Dante's thumb brushed her cheek. Except this time, it won't be entirely fake, will it? The question hung between them. Elena knew she should deny it. Keep some distance. Protect her heart. But she was so tired of protecting herself. No, she whispered. It won't be entirely fake. Dante's eyes darkened. He leaned in, and Elena thought, hoped, he would kiss her. But instead, he pressed his forehead to hers, his breath warm against her skin. Then marry me, Elena Morrison. Help me show Vincenti that his perfect plan created the one thing he can't destroy. What's that? Something worth fighting for. The chapel was small, private, tucked away in a corner of the Russo estate that Elena had never seen. Father Angelo, ancient, kind, clearly terrified of Dante, performed the ceremony with shaking hands. Elena wore a simple white dress that Dante's assistant had somehow procured in 2 hours. It fit perfectly, elegant and understated. Dante stood beside her in a black suit, no tie, looking devastatingly handsome and utterly surreal. Lucas stood between them, holding both their hands, grinning because he thought this was a game. There were no guests. Just Tony and 2 other guards as witnesses, and Father Angelo's nervous recitation of vows that felt more real than they should. Do you, Dante Russo, take Elena Morrison to be your lawfully wedded wife? Dante's eyes never left Elena's face. I do. And do you, Elena Morrison, take Dante Russo to be your lawfully wedded husband? Elena's voice came out steady despite her racing heart. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may, Father Angelo swallowed. You may kiss the bride. Dante hesitated. This was for show, Elena reminded herself. Just for appearances. They'd discussed keeping it simple, keeping it fake. But when Dante's hand cupped her face, when he leaned in with heartbreaking slowness, when his lips finally touched hers, there was nothing fake about it. The kiss was gentle at first. Testing. Then deeper, his other hand sliding to her waist, pulling her closer. Elena's hands found his lapels, holding on for dear life as the world spun around them. When they finally broke apart, Father Angelo was blushing, Tony was grinning, and Lucas was making disgusted faces. "You, Papa's kissing Elena." The tension broke. Dante laughed, actually laughed, and scooped Lucas up. "Get used to it, Piccolo. She's family now. Does that mean she stays forever?" Dante's eyes found Elena's over Lucas's head. "Forever." The word showed you weren't intimidated. "I was absolutely intimidated. But you didn't show it. That's what matters in this world." Dante turned to face her fully. "You understand that tonight changed everything? That you're a target now? That Vincenti won't stop until—" "I know." Elena moved closer. "I knew what I was signing up for when I said yes." "Did you? Because there's no going back now. You're Elena Russo. You're in this for life. Literally." "I know." Dante studied her face. "You should be running. Any sane person would be running. I stopped being sane the moment I ran into gunfire for a child I had no legal right to." "Elena." "I'm not going anywhere, Dante. I'm not leaving Lucas. And I'm not—" She stopped, swallowed. "I'm not leaving you." The words hung between them. Dante's jaw tightened, his eyes searching hers. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not a good man. I've done things, terrible things. My hands are stained with blood that will never wash clean. You deserve better." "Maybe." Elena closed the distance between them. "But I don't want better. I want you." Dante's control snapped. He pulled her against him, his mouth finding hers with desperate hunger. This kiss was nothing like the chapel. This was raw need, 3 years of loneliness and fear and unexpected connection finally breaking through. Elena's hands tangled in his hair. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her closer, like he couldn't stand any distance between them. She tasted desperation on his lips, felt his heart hammering against hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante pressed his forehead to hers. "This is a mistake," he whispered. "Probably. I'll hurt you. Eventually. It's what I do. Maybe I'm stronger than you think. You're definitely stronger than I think." His thumb traced her swollen lips. "But that doesn't mean I won't destroy you anyway." "Then destroy me. But don't push me away. Don't pretend this is just strategy. Don't." He kissed her again, cutting off her words. This time slower, deeper, a promise neither of them were ready to speak aloud. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten. "Stay with me tonight. Here. In this room. Dante. Just sleep. I don't want to be alone tonight." The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in Elena's chest. This man who commanded an empire, who faced down enemies without flinching, who showed no weakness to anyone, he was asking her to stay. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll stay." They lay in his enormous bed, still in their clothes, not touching but close enough to feel each other's warmth. The intimacy of it was almost more intense than the kissing. "Tell me about her," Elena said into the darkness. "Your mother. The one who gave Lucas her nose." Dante was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Then, she died when I was 12. Cancer. It took 2 years, and my father made her suffer every day of it. She wanted treatment, wanted to try experimental options. He said it was weakness. Said if God wanted her to live, she would." Elena's heart ached. "I'm sorry." She used to sing stupid Italian songs about sunshine and flowers. Even at the end, even when she could barely breathe, she'd sing to me. His voice was rough. "Lucas hums the same, all 5 families. They want you to address this. When? Tonight. Tell them I'll be there. Dante's voice was ice. And tell them I'm bringing my family. The meeting hall was the same one where the families had celebrated Dante and Elena's marriage 3 days ago. Now it felt like a courthouse. Every family head sat at the long table, their expressions ranging from sympathetic to calculating. At the far end, Marco Vincenti lounged like he'd already won. Dante entered with Elena at his side and Lucas in his arms. The little boy was drowsy, having been woken from sleep for this. He rested his head on Dante's shoulder, one small fist clutching his father's collar. "Gentlemen," Dante said, "and Vincenti, thank you for coming. Cut the formalities, Russo." Carmine Costello spoke first. "We've all seen the video. Your heir, your supposed heir, is Vincenti's biological son. You've built your succession, your legitimacy, around a lie." "I've built my legitimacy on 10 years of successful leadership," Dante corrected. "On expanding our territories, increasing profits, maintaining peace between the families. My son's genetics don't change any of that." "They change everything." Angelo Fiore slammed his fist on the table. "You expect us to accept Vincenti's blood as heir to the Russo Empire? I expect you to accept that blood matters less than action, less than loyalty, less than family." Dante's arms tightened around Lucas. "This child has been raised Russo. He speaks our language, knows our traditions, understands our values. He is my heir because I say he is. And what do we say?" Vincenti leaned forward, his smile sharp. "Shall we take a vote? See how many families agree that my son should inherit your empire." The room erupted. Voices overlapping, accusations flying. Elena stood frozen, watching her carefully constructed world collapse. Then Lucas started crying. The noise, the tension, the anger, it overwhelmed him. He sobbed against Dante's chest, terrified and confused. And something in the room shifted. Dante didn't raise his voice, didn't make threats. He just held his son, murmuring soft Italian words, rocking him gently until the cries quieted. "This is what you're voting on," Dante said softly once Lucas had calmed. "Not genetics. Not politics. This." A father comforting his frightened son. A family standing together against people who want to tear them apart. He looked around the table. "If you vote against me, you're not voting against my legitimacy. You're voting for a world where love means nothing, where the bonds we choose don't matter, where power trumps everything good we pretend to stand for." "Love." Vincenti's laugh was bitter. "You think love keeps you safe in this world? Love is weakness. Love is leverage. I proved that when I created this situation." "You created him?" Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You think because you contributed DNA, he's yours? Let me tell you what you created, Vincenti. You created 3 years of diaper changes and midnight fevers and first words. You created his first steps, his first laugh, his first day of school. You created every moment I was there and you weren't. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the greatest gift of my life and being too stupid to know what you lost." The silence in the room was absolute. "I fell in love with your stubborn devotion and your hidden softness and the way you make terrible jokes when you're nervous." "I don't make terrible jokes. You absolutely do. But I love them anyway." Dante kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "Marry me. We're already married. For real this time. Not for strategy. Not for protection. Because I want you forever. Because I choose you." Elena's heart soared. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." They stood there in his office, wrapped in each other, and for the first time since this whole insane journey began, Elena felt like she'd finally come home. The terrace of the Russo penthouse overlooked all of Manhattan. Elena stood at the railing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Behind her, she could hear Lucas, now 8 years old, teaching his little sister Sophia her ABCs. No, Soph, H, comes after G. Try again. H. Sophia's triumphant 3-year-old voice rang out. Perfect. Mama, did you hear? She got it. Elena turned, smiling. Lucas had grown so much taller, his baby face sharpening into features that, yes, still resembled Vincenti's, but were entirely his own. He wore his Russo heritage with pride, spoke 3 languages fluently, and had his father's protective instincts without the violence. Sophia, on the other hand, was all Dante's, dark eyes, stubborn chin, fierce even at 3. I heard, baby. You're a great teacher. Dante emerged from inside, loosening his tie after a long day. He'd aged beautifully, a few gray hairs at his temples, laugh lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. How was the meeting? Elena asked as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. Productive. The Vincenti family finally agreed to the peace treaty. His lips brushed her ear. Marco's in prison. His empire crumbled. His successor is younger, smarter. Wants to build instead of destroy. That's good. It's over. Really over. After 5 years, we can finally stop looking over our shoulders. Elena leaned back against him, breathing in his familiar scent. I wouldn't change any of it. Not even the parts where you were terrified I'd get you killed? Especially not those parts. They made the quiet moments sweeter. Lucas ran over, Sophia toddling behind him. Papa, can we have a story before bed? Both of you? Dante crouched down to their level. Even though someone, he looked at Sophia, is supposed to be napping? No nap, Sophia declared. No nap, Elena confirmed, laughing. She's staging a revolution. She gets that from you, Dante said, standing. Fine. One story. But then bed. No negotiations. Tell the one about how you met Mama. Lucas loved that story, the cleaned-up, child-appropriate version. Again? Don't you want to hear about the dragon? Dragons aren't real, Papa. But you and Mama are. That's better. Dante's eyes met Elena's over the children's heads. In that look was everything. 5 years of marriage, 2 children, countless dangers faced and overcome, and a love that had started as strategy and become unshakable truth. You're right, Dante said softly. That is better. They went inside together, all 4 of them, leaving the sunset behind. In the distance, sirens wailed. The city moved on. Life continued. But in the Russo penthouse, surrounded by family, Elena finally had everything she'd never known she wanted. A home. A family. A love worth fighting for. And every scar along the way had been absolutely worth it. And that's where our story ends, with Elena, Dante, Lucas, and little Sophia, proof that families are built on love, not just blood. If you connected with this journey, leave a like and share it with someone who loves a good low.